If you find yourself with a camera in your hand and you want to learn how to use it, please subscribe to this channel, like the videos, comment down below what you would like to learn more about. Hi Photos subscribers, thank you so much for coming back and watching. This is a video that I really like talking about, the subject I really like talking about, because it deals with the science behind all the photography and the light and everything else. This is what I geek out on. So I apologize if it kind of leaves you in a fog and all that, but it's very intriguing to me. The more I study into it and the more I dig down, the more I enjoy it and like it. But I want to try and keep this at a very knowledgeable, very usable level. So in the discussion, and I haven't even told you what we're talking about. Okay, so the use of your lens and the diaphragm of your lens, which is set by the value of f-stop, is going to affect your focal planes and how much is in focus and how small or wide your focal plane is. And so I want to take a little bit of time to explain to you the it's called the aberration, which is both chromatic and light aberration, which is actually a focal aberration. And so the focal aberration being controlled is what affects the near and far focal planes as we calculate hyperfocal distances or the depth of field in general with its near and far focal plane, and how much of the area is going to appear to be most in focus. So why this happens and how it works, I'm not going to be greatly able to explain this at, say, a college level, but to give us an understanding of the equipment we hold in our hand and how it works and why it's doing what it's doing when we set the settings to this f-stop, this ISO, this shutter speed, is going to help us understand how and what and why, so when we're out in the field, these decisions are more of a snap and it doesn't take us as long to get there and understand it. But in general, I'm going to give you a little bit of a hand-drawn sketch here. I apologize for its rudimentary nature, but this out here, this edge, is the very front of your camera. So that's, some cameras may have a hot shoe flash that mounts up there. Almost all professional professional cameras are going to have a hot shoe flash up there. Some point and shoot cameras that are the first lines of DSLRs are going to have a lens that's, sorry, not a lens, a flash that is compact into this area. And if you shoot it in an automatic mode, as you focus with pressing the shutter button halfway down, it'll kind of beep and then the flash may pop up because it determines it needs more light in this shot. That's kind of an interesting way as you're learning, do I need more light in this shot or not? And so as your camera in an automatic mode is determining exposure, it's going to pop that up if it needs added light to the current ambient light in the room. So all of that aside, I'm sorry, like I told you, I geek out on this. Anyway, so this is your camera and this is your lens. Now there's a whole lot of parts in here that I've drawn out in your lens, and this is not by any means exactly what majority of lenses are going to have, but this is just a pared down version of what a lens looks like. So here's the very end, the bezel of your lens. When you buy a lens and it has that lens cap on it, this is what that lens cap attaches to over here. Inside you're going to have an array of lenses, and it culminates in one of the last lenses here, which I've drawn as a convex lens, and then this is a concave lens, which is then going to narrow the focus down into your sensor so that all that light, as it comes in your lens, is narrowed down, focused, and corrected for all the chromatic and color focal aberration necessary. And as it comes down, it passes through your lens diaphragm, which is adjusted by the f-stop. Now, all that light coming through this concave lens is focused directly in all light colors, and the focal light photon pathways are in as close as it can get to straight lines back to your sensor. Now I said in straight lines, I also said as close as it can, because diaphragm here narrows down the amount of light that is brought in through the bezel of your lens. This is the breadth, or a lot of diagrams like this, if they show you in a digital format, the light coming in, it'll come out at an angle showing you that it's more than just a tubular cylindrical amount of light, that it expands. Photons can come from a varying angle of attack into your lens. Once it's caught by your lens here, it may be corrected a little bit through that glass and corrected further so that, oops, it hit the diaphragm. Or it comes in and it comes and it's corrected and it's corrected, it's corrected, it's corrected, it's corrected, and oh, it goes through the diaphragm because the aperture is set so that your f-stop will allow the lens diaphragm opening to allow that photon to pass through, and now it's corrected even further to exactly meet that focal plane of your sensor. Now, we call this the focal plane in your sensor within your camera back in here. I was pointing to the end of the lens. I'm aware of that. I apologize. But once it hits your sensor back here and your sensor reads that data from that light photon, now it's basically mirroring. Okay, so yes, it kind of is reflecting, but that light photon's path, as it comes from having shone from the sun, let's say, it then reflects off of that plant or object you're shooting, imaging, and then it bounces back into your lens, and it takes that path and it is course corrected, color corrected, focal corrected, and it then meets your camera sensor. That aberration of color and focus, depending on where it hits your camera sensor, because of the narrowing of your diaphragm and the correction from all your lenses. I told you it's a little bit scientific and weird, geeky, but I love this stuff. That is why the more narrow, smaller your diaphragm, which is the larger number, 13, 14 f-stop 20, 22, 32, the smaller the diaphragm opening. I have that there colored kind of, it's not colored between the two other fan blades of the diaphragm. So the smaller your diaphragm opening, the less focal aberration will be allowed through the diaphragm. Okay, I hope that makes sense. The wider open your diaphragm is, the greater focal aberration that the photon can follow, and the sensor will receive a wider variety of photon pathways. And so that's why there's you'll notice that one specific spot on your sensor is that very narrow focal range. So I hope that visual and explaining that a little bit has helped you understand a little bit more about why things are out of focus, how to achieve a stronger, more sharp focus, and that this content has added a lot of value to your photography. It's something that still adds value to my photography because I'm still learning and growing and searching, researching, and adding this knowledge to how I shoot in my photography. Thank you so much for watching. If you're not yet a subscriber, we encourage you and ask that you do be a subscriber. We are learning and growing, and each video we put out, we achieve what we aspire to is 1% better. So eventually we will be a super awesome channel. Thank you so much for watching, and any comments you want to add below, we thank you for telling us what you found valuable in this video and anything you would like to see elaborated on in the future. We appreciate your watching. God bless.